Escape from the Planet of the Apes was originally released in 1971. It was directed by Don Taylor and it starred Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowall. Now, this is the third in the popular Planet of the Apes series that began in 1968 with the first Planet of the Apes movie. Now, in this one, we pick up where the sequel, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, leaves off. Now, this is after the world-ending events of that film. We discover that Zira, Cornelius, managed to find Taylor's ship, and then they used it to travel to the past where modern humans are still in control of the planet. Now, from there, they are taken to a secret military base where it's sort of a flip of the script happens, and they find themselves in a role where they are underdogs in a world where they are no longer the dominant species on the planet. Now, what follows is what I could argue is one of the more subtle and character-driven entries in the original Ape series. So let's go ahead and take a look at Escape from the Planet of the Apes. The script was once again written by Paul Den, who had handled the writing duties on Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Now, Den came up with the main story concept, which allowed for a smaller budget because the ape makeup only had to be used for the two principal main characters rather than a whole bunch of characters as in the previous two films. Also, what Den did was he consulted with Pierre Boulud, who was the author of the original Planet of the Apes, in order to try to inject some more satire into the film. He got Pierre Boulud to help him with that part of it. Now, much of the satire, I think, can be found in the moments where Cornelius and Zira, they are acclimating into the human society, and they do some funny things like they go shopping and they attend parties. And the tone of that, personally, I always felt with those scenes was, to be honest with you, a little silly and clashed with the darker and more action-oriented tones from the previous films. But I think that things start to pick up when Zira announces that she's pregnant. The stakes start up at that point, and we get away from a little bit of the campy side of things as you saw in the earlier part of the film. And this is where we find out that the human characters are considering eliminating them, or at the very least terminating Zira's pregnancy so they can do something about the future destruction of the Earth. They don't want that to happen, so they're going to kind of take their ability to create a new smart ape civilization away from them. And that's where the moral dilemma comes into play and the ethical questions come into play. And I feel like the movie picks up at that point. And then what we end up getting is a sort of a chase story when Zira and Cornelius escape and try to go on the run to get away from this fate and preserve themselves and preserve the life of the child that Zira's carrying. That's when I think things actually start to pick up and the movie gets interesting from that point on. The film then leads to what I consider to be a very exciting climax and one of the best ending moments of any Planet of the Apes movies other than the original Statue of the Liberty ending on the original film. I think this is one of the stronger end moments of an Apes movie other than that moment. And I'm not going to say what it is. If you haven't seen this in a while, I don't want to spoil it. If you've never seen it before, I don't want to spoil it. But that last shot, the ending moment of this film, is really good. It's one of my favorite moments in really any Planet of the Apes movies at all. Some of the highlights for me are the return of Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowall. I feel like this is a good example of how supporting characters in a previous story can be fleshed out and made to be the leads of another story. That's what they're doing here, and I think it works really well. Having the same actors reprise the roles of the original characters from the first film gives the audience, us, some familiarity and helps us invest in them, I think. Plus, they both give really good performances. They are really good in this. And you get a sense that they respect the material. They take it seriously, which I appreciate. Another thing I also love is the introduction of what is called Baby Milo in this story, but we know that he goes on to become Caesar, that we meet in the next movie, Conquest, and then Caesar goes on to be the lead of the reboots that we got in the most recent decade. And the birth of him, the beginning of him, that character, is here in this film. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, critical response for this film was pretty positive. Quite a few reviewers liked the movie a lot. They felt that it was more of a successor to the original than Beneath the Planet of the Apes. The consensus I'm seeing is that a lot of these reviewers liked Planet of the Apes, didn't like Beneath Planet of the Apes, and then liked this one. Felt this was more in line with the tone of the original. I can kind of see that. Even though I do have an affinity for Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I did do a review on that. You can check that out. But I can see why they feel this movie had a little bit more of a kinship to the first one, because it is more cerebral. It doesn't have the action beats that Beneath has. It's more of a dialogue-driven, thought-driven picture, I believe. Now, for my final thoughts, I'd like to say that I believe Escape from the Planet of the Apes is a quieter movie than the previous two. It relies less on sci-fi special effects and action and more on the plight of the main characters. Now, by doing that, it feels like it has something to say regarding the social issues of the time, the early 70s. It seems to have some parallels to what was going on in the world, and a few things to say about that, and I appreciate it for that. I feel the attempts at humor and whimsy, especially in the earlier part of the movie, could have been muted some. The scenes where they were going shopping and they were going to parties and things like that, I feel like that kind of slowed it up, but the tension and the drama in the second half more than make up for that. And just the lead up to the climax and the ending moment, like I mentioned before, great stuff. And I do feel this is a good movie in the series. Not one of my favorites, I will admit that, but definitely a good movie, worth your time, and you should check it out if you haven't seen it in a while, or if you've never seen it, you should definitely check it out. So that is my look at Escape from the Planet of the Apes. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this movie? What is your opinion of it? I would love to hear it. Let me know in the comments. All right, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch my video today. I really appreciate it. I'll be coming back at you with some more very soon. And until the next time, have a good one.